Greetings, viewers, and welcome back to another episode of FitzRupee Cast featuring Dawn of War 2 Retribution. Red-Rupee here, calling the shots for you as always once again tonight, and we are back on track getting these games casted and out to you folks. And before we get started, I wanted to remind everyone of that big Elite mod tournament coming up that did get changed back to April 21st now. That is no longer on the 14th, it's on Sunday, April 21st. Company of Heroes 2 will be one of the top prizes. There will also be other prizes awarded to various players for things like maybe winning with the weirdest build order or perhaps losing in the most extreme fashion. I think Riku and Juwan were calling that the Flunky Award or something like that. I don't know. But hopefully that'll encourage some more of you mid-range players to come in because there are goodies to be won. And also, since I like to keep you fine folks informed of all things Relic and Dawn of War, Company of Heroes, all that fun stuff, the KO2 beta has actually been announced. It's starting next week, so pre-order your copies, because April 2nd, that beta is opening up to anyone who's got the pre-order, and we're just going to be able to tear into that as much as we like. Help out, get those early bugs out of the way, maybe help out with some feedback on balance issues and all that fun stuff. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. Let's take a look at our game tonight. We've got Mr. Texcalibur, Texaneous, Tex-Mex, whatever he's going by these days, on the blue side playing the Space Marine Apothecary. And then we've got CrazyMan 64335 with a bunch of numbers playing the big mean war boss. And I'm not particularly familiar with this player, so we'll have to see what he's bringing to the table. Tex, of course, we're all very familiar with, likes his crazy build orders. Very affable player, very supportive and helpful to the community and the players around him generally. So we'll have to see what he's going for tonight. Calderas Refinery, a pretty big map. Some people argue that that's bad for the war boss. Some say it's pretty good. But Space Marine, not particularly good on the big maps themselves. So I think, all in all, this will probably favor the Orcs. But of course, we'll have to see how CrazyMan plays this one out. Tex sending his scouts way into enemy territory right out of the gate here. Going for an early cap, it looks like, on some enemy requisition. I never really see the scouts go this far out. The Tactical Marines going over here, trying to get themselves some power. Apothecary getting those natural rec points for Texaneous, and it looks like our Orc player, Mr. CrazyMan, already popping his power node. I don't know if Tex is prioritizing requisition here, or what exactly the plan is. Warboss gets a nice big stomp right there, might snag himself a scout model, maybe even get a second. A nice early victory there, forcing those scouts off for CrazyMan. Tex loses himself a scout right out of the gate. Looks like CrazyMan's going to be able to secure both of the contested power nodes, so that's going to be a big win for him. Not a major deal, but it looks like actually Tex might be going for a double tac build here. I saw this game on game replays and decided I'd check it out. It looked pretty interesting. And it looks like what I think we're going to see here is Tex is going to go at least 2 Tactical Marines here to start us off. And I know I saw Twilily go for a similar build recently on Steve Bud's Budcast, so we'll have to see if this one plays out as well for Tex or as poorly as it did in that particular game. So yeah, we've got at least a second tac squad coming out. Shooter's getting already upgraded with the big shooters. Apothecary's in a lot of trouble though. He needs to get the heck out of here. He hits the retreat button, but just as those big shooters upgrade, that might be all it is for the Apothecary. Down he goes. An early loss for Texaneous. That's going to be a big win for CrazyMan considering the current map control situation. Tex still not building any power. Got 200 requisition. He knows he's not really going to be able to hold it, so he's probably holding back on getting that node. These 2 tacs are going to start kiting that warboss around, but with the big shooters and the warboss focusing down one squad, it's not going to work out very well for him. Slug is at half HP. Second squad of big shooters moving in after taking out another scout. Tex not bothering to reinforce them, using them specifically for capturing only. There goes the aiming what's that on those tacs, trying to slow them down and allow the warboss to move in for the kill. Tie those tacs up in melee. The shooter boys are still going to have to get out of there though, as the tacs are just going to force them down and chase them with those big mean tac bolters. Second squad of tacs now pressuring the warboss, and it looks like Tex might actually be going for another squad. He's got almost enough for another tac squad. Let's see if he goes for a third or chooses to repurchase his Apothecary. And yes, he is going for a third Tactical Marine squad. So this is what we saw Twilily go for earlier in Steve Bud's cast, if you follow his cast. And it didn't work out too well for him, I think. But I think the key to having this kind of an intensive heavy rec build, one would be, I guess, to hold a couple of rec points, which Tex is currently not doing. The second would be when he gets these 3 tacs on the field and probably gets his apothecary back, he needs to take out this power farm. That's going to be essential to this build, because otherwise CrazyMan's just going to pull way ahead in power, and it's just going to be a good game right then and there, as soon as a Dreadnought, as soon as a truck hits the field, something like that. Nice aiming what's that on the injured tacs. Might manage to get these sluggers to take a model down, but they might actually go down themselves if they're not careful. They do. And aiming what's that should have been triggered on that second tactical marine squad. Those sluggers were very low health. They were taking fire from the secondary squad, and of course tacs are no slouches in melee when it comes to taking on a damaged squad like that. A lone scout heading into a fully upgraded shooter squad right here has to retreat instantly upon seeing that. Says, no thank you, I'm getting the heck out of there. Tex brings his apothecary back onto the field, and now he's going to have to make this essential push to take out this power farm here shortly. Warboss still sitting vanilla. Both Shooter Boys squads have been upgraded with both their big shooters and their shooter knobs. So that's going to be some pretty heavy power invested, but all things considered, CrazyMan held pretty much the entire map except for Tex's natural VP and his natural power for a good deal of this opening game here. Tex is down pretty far, down soon to be 150 VPs, with CrazyMan still sitting at a full 500 himself. Warboss and Slug is waiting over here, but 2 squads attacks quickly take off a big chunk off of that Warboss. One of the tac squads get upgraded with the Flamer, and that's exactly what Tex is planning on doing, is moving in on that power farm. CrazyMan with a little bit of insight, seeing that push coming and ready for it with 2 squads in melee. Apothecary is going to have to get over here and help out. Scouts are getting upgraded with some shotguns, though. That'll certainly help the cause. But the Warboss is ready with a stomp. He's getting very low on HP, though. The wall was activated, but with only 1 squad, it's not going to do too terribly much damage. Flamer dealing lots of AoE DPS and forces off the Slugger Boys. In the meantime, Tex doing a good job keeping that map control up, forcing off wherever he can. Some Storm Boys are on the field, or sorry, some looters on the field for CrazyMan right now. And those looters are going to have to get over here and hold that power. They're actually looking this direction, which I think is a big mistake. If he just set up these looters over here, it could protect the power farm. This impending gen bash is not looking good at all for CrazyMan. CrazyMan is headed into tier 2 right now, while Tex still only has a single node up. Finally has captured a secondary power, but it looks like CrazyMan is going to lose his gen farm here. There's only a squad of Shooter Boys, and with that Flamer on the tacs, even with that green cover, it's just not going to matter. That's one of the things that has been recently changed in the Elite mod, is that Flamers have gotten, I think, a slight DPS upgrade and also a range upgrade. You can see that tac Flamer shooting a bit further than normal. But I think Kael'tos was going to try to make Flamers a bit more universal to use as opposed to just exclusively being a gen bash option. Big stomp coming down from the Warboss. Those scouts in a lot of trouble. Warboss slams the last one on the head, and that's the end of that squad. Apothecary now walking right into a pile of melee 2, and a perfect knockback from the Warboss once again. Apothecary tries to get the heal in, but it doesn't look like he's going to make it out. Slug is also in a lot of peril, and both squads go down. Scouts down, Slug is down, and the Apothecary. Huge engagement right here, as the power farm did get bashed by Texcalibur. Luda's getting set up, trying to suppress those tacs, but really the damage has already been done. The power farm is down. CrazyMan is in tier 2, but now he doesn't quite have the power to get anything big out. He does have 50 power in the bank, so he might be able to get himself an orc truck and make a counter push on Tex's power, which now has 2 generators up. Tex has managed to get the map back in his control. Only cost himself, wow, he managed to get out of all of that with just a single tac loss so far. If he gets the second squad out of there, that's going to be a huge win for him. The Apothecary, of course, went down, but comparing that to a Slugger squad and a full gen farm, which still isn't recapped, Tex has managed to push this right around. That's exactly what he needed to do. He pushed in, took the map, took the gen farm, and evened out those VPs pretty well. He's now down by only 100 with the 2-0 cap. These tacs are going to try to stop that Warboss from getting that cap, and I think they'll just do it too. But CrazyMan does have a Deffdread coming out, as Tex is just now starting to hit his tier 2. So that Deffdread's going to have a short period of time where it can really make a push, and I think really what CrazyMan has to do is use that Dreadnought, push the power, make sure Tex's tech race stops here. He can shut that down with that Dread as soon as he pushes out there, as soon as it comes onto the field. But all's quiet for the time being. Tex is reclaiming the center as his own for the Space Marine army there. Luda's lying in wait I'm surprised they didn't open up right there, at least force the Apothecary to use his heal on these Tactical Marines. CrazyMan going for another Slugger Squad, bringing them back onto the field. Some melee is going to help, but against this kind of ranged firepower, I don't think one squad is going to do it. He's really going to have to make sure he gets the Dread in there, gets the Warballs in there, and then sends the Sluggers in once those tacs are tied up in melee. I would venture to say that it would probably be a good idea to get Angry Bits on the Warballs. Using that charge against all these tacs is going to be very useful for mitigating all that range damage. Maybe get that, what is it, the Trophy Rack actually as well, that reduces the damage output of nearby units. I think that would be really great to have in the middle of 3 tac squadrons. But we'll have to see how that goes. Right now, Luda's watching over the center. I think they need to move up a little bit so they can help support these Slugger boys. Flamer tacs, of course, on the far side of the map, going once again for the Gen Farm. Tex trying to split his forces for maximum effect. Looks like the Deffdread still not upgraded with the Burners and Bits. If he had the Burners and Bits, he'd be able to take out that Gen Farm very quickly. Nice ambush from the Ludas, putting a lot of pressure on that tac squad. Apothecary's trying to charge in against these Luda boys. Aiming What's That was activated, and it looks like both squads of shooters now going to start hammering away on these tacs. Apothecary may go down once again if those shooters manage to get one more good volley off on him. He's down to 4, 3, 2, 1, and down he goes. That's what, the 3rd loss of the Apothecary for Tex. He's managing to keep all his tacs up pretty well. In the meantime, there was an attempted gen bash by these Slugger boys who may now go down as a cause of that, but it looks like they're narrowly going to escape with just under 20 HP. During that battle, they were trying to flame down some power, but Tex responded quickly with the Tactical Marine Squad. His tacs already upgraded with Sergeants. All 3 squads now upgraded with Sarges. And what we'll probably see is at least one of these go for Stern Guards. And then the other 2, one's going to have a rocket launcher, one's going to have a flamer respectively, which really gives Tex just the gambit on all the damage types he needs to have. Flamers of Tex once again take out the power farm of CrazyMan. That Dread's just not quite having the impact he needed it to have. He should have sent that Dread down, upgraded with burners, and take out this power farm. With only 1 rocket launcher on the field, there's really not too much that Tex can do to it. I think CrazyMan perhaps just isn't quite being aggressive enough. He's being too reactionary to the tacs, when instead he should just be charging the line, shutting down Tex's tech, and keeping him from getting any further into this game. Tex has upgraded that 1 squad of the Stern Guards. A nice stomp by the Warballs may net him a kill or 2 on this injured tac squad, but it looks like they might miraculously make it out of there with all of their members intact. Meanwhile, Slugger's back on the field, upgraded with their burners, upgraded with their knob, and Tex still sitting with just those 3 Tactical Marine squads. I don't feel like this build would be nearly as effective without the Apothecary on the field. I think with the other 2 heroes, triple tac is probably not as much of a possibility. And man, now we're seeing some nasty damage coming out from those, I believe it's the Hellfire bolts on those Stern Guard veterans. And then we've got the Vengeance rounds switching in, trying to do some damage to that Deffdread. You can see it actually starts to rack up pretty quickly when you just let those tacs fire on it. Apothecary now getting upgraded with his improved medical equipment, and use the combat stims as well. If you saw those yellow circles on the Stern Guard, that's why they were doing so much damage to that Dreadnought. Flamers now tearing into the Gen Farm of Tex. Nice little dual play there, pushing some pressure on the middle, trying to draw fire with that Deffdread, and then allowing the Sluggers to get in on the back line there and take out this power. It looks like he might manage to get the entire farm. Tex isn't even reacting. It looks like he's just going to let it go. 50 power here shortly, and plenty of requisition. Might be able to get himself another squad or maybe a Razorback here on the field shortly. Tex drops those gens right back down. Not going to yield to that Orc harassment. Says, I'll just build the gens right back. I've got tax. I'm not losing models. I got the Apothecary on the field. I shouldn't have to worry about my wreck if I play this correctly. Deffdread now moving in. Nice using of aiming. What's that? Once again, trying to keep those tacs off of the Luda boys, but they do manage to get it into melee. And it unloads. It actually was not unset up by those tacs, surprisingly. I'm not sure how that worked, if that was a model. It's very curious. Maybe they don't get unset up while they're cloaked. But one Luda squad goes, or one Luda model goes down. Warboss fell as well, and now the Apothecary and tacs have full charge of the center of the battlefield. Deffdread looking pretty injured back here. Still not upgraded with its burners and bits, which I find pretty surprising. CrazyMan has been losing quite a bit of requisition bleed on the battlefield and hasn't been able to build up his power node back right here. Ooh, big hit from the tacs. Down to 38 HP on that Deffdread. It's trying to find a way to sneak out of there. Shooter Boy's trying to pressure those missile launchers. Meanwhile, we have Flamer tacs over here engaging the Deffdread. It's down to 35 HP, and they may actually be able to kill it with that Flamer. Down to 30 HP. Sarge is going in for the melee hits, actually. Down to 12, 8-4, and down it goes. A Walker dying to Tactical Marines and melee. Of course, it was extremely injured. That would normally not have worked. Sluggers get forced off once again by those Stern Guard veterans. Some pretty nasty damage coming off of them. Those virulent Dragonfire rounds just shred the poor Orc infantry. Tex now dropping himself. I'm assuming, yes, it could only be a drop pod here in Tier 2. That gets himself that free tactical model, and then, of course, he'll be able to reinforce off of that anyways. So long as he can stay on the field, he'll be in a good position. Now with just a big Space Marine range blob of doom right here. Apothecary now with the Mastercrafted Bolter as well. That's going to really help control the War Boss. Stormboy's coming on the field, which is a curious choice. But we'll have to see how that plays. I think these tacs now level 3, level 2, and level 3. A couple of them almost level 4. One Stern Guard goes down using a Space Marine Knows No Fear. And really, that's the major strength. I think actually Tex and I casted a game similar to this where he went tac heavy with the Apothecary, didn't get any Assault Space Marines at all, and was really trying to showcase the power of the Apothecary and a Space Marine has no fear. Space Marine knows no fear. Because you can see, look at these guys just tearing through, actually even kind of going toe-to-toe with these Stormboys a little bit. They're going to have to get out of there as soon as that wears off. But they forced off those Slugger Boys, stuck around for a little while with the Stormboys while taking fire from the Shooters. And that just is an extremely powerful ability, and the Apothecary just really lets you spam it as often as you'd like. Apothecary keeping his squads healthy, has the drop pod up here to keep himself reinforced as well. Gonna try to get those Stern Guards out of danger. Really, he needs to use that Apothecary to maybe try to knock him down. Yeah, he does use the full auto right there, knocks a few of the Stormboys back. Meanwhile, these Stern Guards are about half HP. Stormboys taking lots of damage, however, though. And finally have to fall back. Tex managed to kite around long enough to really do a good job. Meanwhile, up top, tacs, once again, there it is, those blue circles. Every time you see those blue circles go down, that's pretty much going to be a one engagement for those tacs. So with the Apothecary being able to constantly heal, constantly reinforce with this drop pod around, so long as he keeps these squads on the field, there's not much they're going to be able to get taken out by. Finally scared off by a pile of sluggers. Actually just sat there under the Ludifire and shot them down. Sluggers changed their mind about that real quick, though, and it's not looking good for CrazyMan. He's wreck-starved, doesn't even have a full gen farm down. Tex is heading into Tier 3, and the War Boss is on the ground in the center. So with just 3 tac squads and some nice Apothecary plays so far, Tex has really managed to bring this game back into his favor. Tex hunting for orcs right now while we're waiting for Tier 3 to finish up and see what he brings onto the field. He can really bring just about whatever he wants. He can bring a Predator, shortly Terminators, or no, he actually doesn't have the red necessary for that. But Predators or Land Raiders, really, he can run the gambit at this point. He's really done a great job of holding CrazyMan down and minimizing his losses with these Tactical Marines. Apothecary drops a heal on himself. And really, that's what CrazyMan should have been doing. He needs to focus that Apothecary off. Of course, once he gets that Mastercrafted Bolter, it becomes a lot more difficult. Combat stims go down on those Tactical Marines, and if they drop Space Marine Knows No Fear, yeah, there it goes. Once again, like just beaten up those Slugger Boys with a combination of combat stims and a Space Marine shall know no fear. A lone Stern Guard does get out of that engagement. Tex taking a few more losses than he probably wanted to right there. But he's got the VP advantage. They're still ticking away. And CrazyMan has to focus all of his efforts on dealing with these Tactical Marines. Which, with the passive healing aura of the Apothecary, and of course, when those heals do pop, with them about to hit level 4, they're just going to be a beast to take on. level 3 Stern Guards and 2 squads of level 3 tacs. The Apothecary is level 4, and the tacs just hanging out in green cover, tanking away as they fire a few rockets into those Shooter Boy squads. Constant heals going off on these tacs, and there's just nothing the CrazyMan can do about it. He's kind of been pushing out here in small groups, though. I feel like if CrazyMan brought everything he has to bear down on these tactical marines, he'd really be able to pound them out, force off the Apothecary. That Warboss, I think, could have been key too. The Warboss was down for quite a bit, and now that he's back on the field, perhaps CrazyMan needs to get himself a few upgrades on that Warboss, because I think he's the key to taking out those tacs. Any of his upgrades are just so powerful against tactical marines. If he got the Big Bang Hammer, if he got the Power Claw, of course, either of those weapons would be crucial in causing some major losses to these tactical marines. But anyways, we've got 2 big melee squads heading out there, getting ready to engage these tacs, but man, that's just so much range damage. Look at those Dragonfire rounds eating through those poor Slugger boys. And even though Tex goes for these kind of, I guess, wackier builds, he always has a pretty cerebral game. He kind of knows what he's getting into when he goes into it. And he plans, he's got kind of that prescient knowledge of what the build's weaknesses are going to be, and he's just ready for it. He says, I know as long as I can get these tacs into tier 2, get that Apothecary geared up, that Orc melee isn't even really going to be an issue. Tacs trying to take a lot of fire while getting a little distraction time in, allowing these Flamer tacs to get in once again on this power farm. Tex has that Land Raider coming, and I think as soon as that thing hits the field, that's going to be the game. CrazyMan really has a short period of time here that he needs to cause some major losses. But I just don't think it's going to happen. He's down to 100 VPs to 228 for Tex. There's dead Orcs littering the battlefield and very few tacs to match. Couple Sarges, couple Stern Guard here and there. But the Apothecary is really just showing his strength right here. And I do love watching these stranger build orders, because it does show that, like, while a lot of people say, oh, the game's not changing, even with Elite Mod, everyone still does the same builds, there's still plenty of potential to do different things. And I think that's oftentimes what Tex kind of strives to just go out and show us, say, hey, look, here's what you can do, and here's how I did it. But here comes the big mean Land Raider. Oh my gosh. Big mean green machine. Tex says the green tide, I've got the green tank. So let's see how you deal with that. And right now he's just kind of challenging CrazyMan to come out onto the field and do something about it. CrazyMan doesn't have much time left. He took out the drop pod, but in place of it, there's a giant Land Raider Crusader. Warboss moving in for the kill, does have the cyborg implants, but unfortunately, without the angry bits, I don't think the Warboss is even going to be able to get close enough to all that range damage to even get a big stomp off. Big melee brawl here on this side of the map. We got a little scuffle going on between the Apothecary, tacs, and 2 squads of Orcs. But really, they're just going to kite around, allow those other tacs to get in here, and man, with level 4 tacs, they can just tank for so long with that Apothecary around. Apothecary actually retreating forward to the Land Raider. And there goes the GG from CrazyMan. He recognizes that he's beaten. And Tex just rode those tacs out with the Apothecary into tier 3. There were certainly, I feel like, some better options that CrazyMan could have gone for. I think he should have used his Warboss more effectively. I think with 3 tac squads on the field, get a Weird Boy on the field, because, man, Weird Boy just disrupts tacs, knocks him over, hits the Warp Vomit, can toss melee at him, like, just so crucial to dealing with this kind of play, I feel like. But Tex, of course, did a great job, used the Apothecary exactly the way he's meant to be played, and just, I mean, a Space Marine shall know no fear, and we saw that today. Just a big old pile of tacs running around on the field, doing damage on range, doing damage in melee. These Stern Guards just incredibly useful throughout the game. But anyways, that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Maybe try out that build, see if you can make some guys rage against Space Marine, because people do love to do that. Anyways, this is Red-Rupee. Feel free to subscribe, comment, like the video. I always appreciate it. Go sign up for that tournament, and I will catch you guys next time.